Ladies and gentlemen, very excited for my guest today on Driving with Dave. Are you from the Garden State? Are you a Jersey?
I'm a Jersey gal.
We have a Jersey gal here. It's Teresa Morrison. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'll cheers you.
Cheers.
So good. Are you related to Van Morrison by any chance?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. Well, in college, I used to say that to guys at the bar.
Sure.
I'd be like, I'm related to Van. Also, Jim.
Do you think that would be a deal? Like, did you need that credit for the guys? I feel like men are not going to carry the right.
You know what? That is valid. They never did. I also, my opening line was, my name's Teresa. I'm from Lincoln Park, New Jersey. Like the band, but not spelled like it.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Boonton High School because Lincoln Park is a flood town, so we had to go to Boonton.
A flood town?
Oh yeah, they're just like, it floods everywhere.
Do they actually call towns a flood town?
I mean, probably not, but we did.
Well, I mean, if your town floods, it floods. I just didn't know that was a thing.
We were like, it's a flood town, so we can't have our own high school, so there's nowhere to build it.
We got a new person moving in here.
Yeah.
I love. Can I go out this way?
Yeah.
I love the complex like you live in, where it's like a building surrounding by a pool.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I lived in a place, but my wife is a introvert, so it's her worst nightmare.
Really?
But I love the idea that you can open a window and see who's by the pool doing whatever they're doing.
And my apartment is overlooking the pool.
Really?
Yeah, so I love going out, and now in the summer, you need to get down there at 9 a.m. and throw towels down.
You got to get it. What is this, Palm Springs? Really?
Yeah.
You got to get your towel down?
Oh, I do it. Sometimes, and there's 2 cabanas, sometimes I throw towels down, I'm like, oh, and I go back to my apartment. And
boy, you learn that quick when you're on vacation. If the first day you're like, all right, I'll just show up at 11 a.m. No, you won't.
No. 8.
Yeah, if you want to float in the water the whole time. No, yeah, you got to put your towel down. That's like the gold rush. Mm-hmm. You need a show where you spy on, like a voyeur show. I don't know if this is legal, but
could I? Yeah.
Do you just like have a morning coffee and watch people?
I do have morning coffee actually, and there's this man who lives on the 4th floor across, and we never say anything. Like, we only met once at the pool. I know his name, but I don't know if he knows mine. And I always go out there and I'm like,
did you tell him you're related to Van Morrison?
You know what? I should have.
That's
maybe
where you want it. Yeah, that would be good, because then you could have some like neighborhood politics. Like, is that the chick who's related to Van Morrison?
Related to Van Morrison. Possibly Jim.
Possibly. I mean, one of the Morrisons. Who knows? Do you know Tyler Morrison? He's a Canadian comedian.
No.
That's a very niche reference. But
maybe.
Yeah, you should know Tyler Morrison. I don't know. I'm going through the Morrisons here.
There's also like Jennifer Morrison. She was on House. I don't know.
House with the British guy?
Yes.
Oh,
I used to watch it back in the day, but she was on it, and I was like, oh, so we have the same
Could be related. You never know.
Related.
Have you ever dated a guy in one of those, like, where you lived in the same apartment complex? Because that would be pretty good until it's no longer.
Not good. No, I've never, because, I lived in New York City for 8 years, so I know no one lived in my building, but I hooked up with a guy who lived close to me. And it actually was convenient.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, what part of New York?
I was in Washington Heights.
Okay. I think we might have talked about this.
Yeah.
I was 140th and Broadway.
Yeah. You were like Hamilton Heights.
Hamilton Heights. It was called Hamilton Heights when I lived there because Harlem was still an undesirable neighborhood. But now they call it Harlem because now Harlem's has
up and coming.
Yeah. I moved from 144th in Broadway to 140th in Broadway. So I was literally just a guy walking a mattress down the street, which is how bed bugs
But which is exactly how bed bugs are formed. However, you're moving on down, and I was talking to my friend about this recently, about how, like, in New York City, when it's different, the expression of, like, when you're like moving on up versus New York City moving on up.
It's the opposite.
If you're moving on up, you're poor.
You're in the Bronx Zoo.
You're in the Bronx.
You've gone too far.
Yeah, you're like,
or you're a theater arts.
Very
person.
true.
So were you there? Were you a theater arts person living on 175th in Amsterdam or one of those?
I was on 71st in Broadway.
Up in the cloisters, 171st in Broadway. Yeah,
and then I was 177 and Amsterdam.
Oh, so we were on the 1 train together.
We were on the 1 train probably.
Oh my God! I used to see a girl up there, and let me tell you, the walk home was dangerous. Okay?
Oh, you walked home from 170 to 140. Well, I guess you could, but...
Well, here's the deal. There's something primal. I don't know what it is, but there's something primal about walking home after a hookup.
You know what?
I get if they're selling street meat, I always get it. I get a churro and whatever's in the corn.
I'll take a sausage, pepper, and onion sandwich.
And, I had my worst story was a walk of shame the next morning after, and I was just feeling great. I couldn't find my underwear at the dame's house.
Yeah.
But walking back through Central Park, I was like, this was a long distance, and sure enough, about halfway across the park, I realized my fly was down the whole time.
Oh.
Which
you didn't have underwear?
No. No, due to bunching. I mean, I'm sure there was no, but like, there's people renting those horses for like $75 for every 5 minutes.
You know
I'm just like, they're like, honey, don't look over there.
Good morning.
Just me with a bagel and a hot coffee.
Day.
Oh man, but New York, yeah.
New York, yeah.
Was it easier to date there or in Nashville?
Oh my gosh. New York was so hard to date. I will say I moved here October of 2022. And I just was like, I don't know if because I was in a new place where I just was like, I don't care. And I started going out on more dates here than I did in New York. And I think it's because I just had this like, I'm just going to go out with anyone on this Hinge app.
Some call this your hoe phase.
You know what? I would say it was like a reinvention. Like, because I've had that phase.
That's
but like, you know what I mean? It was
okay, so this is not, hoe phase would have been, that's like in your early 20s. And now reinvention is your 30s hoe phase.
30s hoe phase. And it was fun. I was like, I'm seeing through, guys. Yeah. Just like there's a lot of tossing of the hair. I was like, I feel good. And then you have to toss your hair when you're reinventing. You have to you have to toss your hair. Just be like, I feel great. I'm dating 3 men.
You're just in a Pantene Pro V commercial. You have to be.
You have to do it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's better to date multiple people at once. And I'll say this, and I think men are more likely to want to settle down with you if you have other options. Maybe it works the other way. It might sound super manipulative, but I just think it comes down to like when there's a demand, versus when you're desperate, you can smell that from a mile away.
Oh my gosh! But it's also the chase, right? Like,
I hate to say it, everyone goes, "Oh, that's no one should play games." It's like, well, some games are primal. I think
Yeah.
I mean, how would you buy a car if the car salesman was like, please buy our car today?
Yeah.
No, you'd buy a car from the guy who's like, hey, I'm selling too many cars, I can't help you. And it's like, no, I want you to help me.
Yeah, please. Yeah, exactly.
Because you would trust that person knows what they're doing.
So
it's almost like you, and especially, and again, people, get really bent out of shape when you bring in gender into issues, but I feel like women have to protect themselves.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Especially in the instance where if you do procreate, you are more likely to be stuck with a baby versus a guy.
Yep.
Now, I hate that that's how it is, but you have to make sure you do the right picking.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I was just like, in New York, it was super hard to date. And I only dated like one guy. And then I would find out that they were like, seeing other people and gay.
In the theater arts world, I'm dating Steven. He's in the ensemble of Lion King. It's like, that ain't no gazelle, okay?
And he loves to bend and snap from Legally Blonde.
How great is that? I know a guy who does a high kick and he's straight. I'm like, bro, all right, I won't tell you if you don't want to know.
No, I am actually never dated an actor. I never was about that life. I didn't want to do it. The last guy I did actually see in New York was also a comedian, and I told myself I'll never date any other comedians, and now my boyfriend is a comedian.
Oh, okay. Is he a Nashville comedian?
Well, he's here. I met him here in Nashville, and he was
traveling through town.
No, he lives here, and he's a professor too. So he teaches. Ooh. And I guess I needed, not that I'm not like, you could be a full-time comedian, but you got to be a full-time comedian, and then also are you making money doing it? Well,
I mean, you bring up a good point, which is when we were talking just a second ago about trusting people. Are they desperate? And a lot of times this happens a lot with me when I was in the acting world before I took control of my life by getting into stand-up and sketch comedy. When you're an actor, you're waiting for the phone during. You're only as good as whatever auditions are coming in. Very desperate. And it can be very hard to date someone who's desperate because you almost start to attach your worth onto other people.
Oh, 100%.
And it can be very challenging to be like, what am I even doing? There's no validation there because you don't get to see the thing that you're building because it's kind of in the ether.
Exactly.
And a lot of comedians are that way where they're like, oh, I live in my car because it's cheaper. And it's like, playing to the poverty aspect of life versus like the thriving aspect.
Right. And it's like I came here and I was like, I'm gonna, just put myself out there. I'd go on more dates. I'm not dating like an actor. I did date a musician for a hot second, and I thought that was better, but
guitar,
bass.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Actually, he plays for a very well-known country artist. He's very famous.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think a bassist would have good rhythm.
Very good rhythm. And he's also like a very nice guy. He's a touring musician. So
yeah.
How does that happen? And then also he had just gotten over like a divorce. That was another thing too. I had dated like 2 guys when I moved here who had just gotten through a divorce.
But that's that Tennessee thing. Like people get married so young. Let's be coastal elites for a second, okay? Because I just can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm from the East. I lived on the West. I'm super coastal elite.
Yeah.
You don't get married at such a young age.
No.
And I think in part because in some of these cities, you're just too busy trying to get some things accomplished.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how are you going to get married when you can't even get a second call back?
Exactly. I'm like, how am I going to worry about buying a house if I can't afford my Starbucks? That's my life. That was that was really New York City, to be honest.
Well, you have to be selfish to an extent to get the ball rolling, because there is only a window. Now, there's always stars. I made it when I'm in my 50s, but there is like a window of like how much time you really can dedicate to yourself. Versus if you have a family, it's like, come on, you got a kid to raise here. You got things to do.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't think, and it's like you can choose either one.
Right.
But a lot of people that choose too young to marry are on their second, third, whatever.
Yeah.
When they hit 30. I mean, it's just a fact. Now, whenever I'm going to get comments, I'm 78. I met my person at 12. Whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But statistically, the longer you can hold out, the better the chance is, because you have a better idea of who you are.
Yeah.
How can you attract someone if you don't know who you are?
100%. Like I just know I did a comedy show. Where was I? Manchester, and there was a couple married 6 years. Manchester,
UK?
Tennessee. No, I know Tennessee. Yeah, I just flew to Manchester to do a show. No, Manchester, Tennessee, and this couple married 6 years, and they got married and they were 22. They're like 28, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I was blacked out at 22.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Didn't know who, was literally picking my bra off a floor of and of being like, sorry, tiptoeing out of a guy's, living my best life. No, really, living my life. And I
You were the tiptoeer type?
I was a tiptoer, being like,
that creaky floor. And you're like, nope, gotta go.
I started at one time, actually, I was at a guy's house and I was trying to I couldn't find my bra. And I was like, I need to find it. So I found my bra and he's like, you good? Did you lose something? And I kid you not, I was like, to be honest, I thought I lost a bra, but I found it. Lost my dignity, not finding that. I'm just gonna go. See you later. And I've never.
That's what's the best with a post-Halloween hookup. You're like, look, I'm dressed like young Dolly Parton. Me as a man, and dating, I met some girl dressed as Johnny Cash, and I'm Dolly Parton, and it's like, we're not recovering from this.
Wait, remember the high kick thing of your friend?
Yeah, I do a high kick only on Halloween. What are you talking about? It's like
it was Halloween. Any man gets a free pass for dressing up like lady or being like a little feminine, just like
get
us
what
girls
you gotta do.
We're not slutty.
We're just expressive. I'm in my experimental phase. Now, I didn't want to put too much pressure on you, but I thought I wanted to be friends.
Yeah.
But I was like, you really could only mess this up. And I say you, but me, because I thought we had a pretty good connection when we met. And I just like Jersey. I like East Coast people.
Yeah,
and it's it's nothing against people here. It's just I know that. I know, diner. I know the chick who tips toes out of the place.
Yes.
And makes a whole thing out of it. You know what I mean?
The whole thing out of it. Yeah.
Do you miss that, or do you get that here? Do you get is your lifestyle fast enough? What was the other than dating? What was the transition like?
Oh, actually,
from New York City.
And I will definitely say the transition that it's still taking me a little time now at certain places is the restaurant life of it's a little slower, just a slower pace here, which is honestly I appreciate, and part of the reason why I moved down here, I wanted that slower take on things. But wow, sometimes I'm we've been sitting here for 10 minutes. Have we been sitting here for 10 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
They're not coming? Are they coming? Are they coming? And then they come over and they're, you know, or they're just, listen, I was in the industry for 15 years. Like,
look at you. Humble brag.
The humble brag. And like, yes, this is one thing I do hate about myself.
Industry being restaurant.
Yes, industry being restaurant, you know, because as an actor, it's one of the 700 jobs we have.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
But I do hate this about myself that, yeah, I am the person like at a restaurant who's not only like stacking the plates, and then totally when I hand it to the server, I'm like, used to be in the industry. And then after I say it, I'm like, I would hate me if I was a server.
I do that when I'm in an Uber. I go, I used to drive Uber. And then the guy goes like, oh yeah, I got like 3,300 rides. I start like saying my Uber LinkedIn. Yeah, you know, once in a while, you know, those late night rides.
A lot of stars.
Start sharing horror stories. No, I mean, look, so tell me.
I say that's it, yeah.
Tell me about the path from Hamilton Heights or from Washington Heights, from acting to stand-up, and how did you get into acting and how did you get into stand-up?
Yeah, well, so I went to school, Montclair State, shout out, hey, New Jersey, for musical theater.
Nice.
And loved it, learned a lot, moved to New York City to do musical theater, and was actually doing it up until the pandemic, like 2020. I started stand-up though in like 2017. It was the first time I ever like did a show. Okay. Because I've always been curious about stand-up. I did improv in 2014 is when I started that, and I started to shift in like 2014.
But you said you never dated an actor, but there's no way you did improv and didn't date an improviser.
No, I didn't.
You're out of your mind.
No, I did not.
You look like the type who would date you to date the coach, you know?
No,
like,
I had crushes. I did have a crush on like one of my teachers, but like, I sucked in that class so bad because I was so nervous. I was like, Teresa, get out of my head. But anyway, I never dated any of
So how did you get into music? I mean, did you just have a good voice? Like, was this I was a good voice, I was the star of my family's things? Like, was it an itch you needed to scratch? Or?
Yeah, well, I actually, I will never forget, I actually sang, I was with my two friends growing up where we were just singing Spice Girls, as you do, like when you have sleepovers. And my one friend called me out on my vibrato, is what it is.
Oh,
my vibrato.
So you were just singing for fun, and they're like,
that like part that that. She was like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. Like I didn't know what it was, and then I started just like singing a lot, and then the commercial from Chili's was really big at the time. They're like, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. And I would sing it.
No, sing the whole thing. Come on, let's hear it.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Chili's baby back ribs, yeah. Barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce.
Yeah, barbecue. And I sang that, and then my mom was like, wait, that was like good. And then she would make me sing it to my family.
Like I just made
Yes, like you literally just said. And I did. And then my parents I got into voice lessons like 6th grade or 7th grade. And just really loved singing, but I also was like really active in sports. Like I played like 8 years of basketball. I played like 11 years of softball, and liked to play sports. But then sophomore year, I stopped playing sports to like focus on theater. You know,
it's hard to do both. You only have so much time for your after school activities, and they kind of, I think that's the pre-selection on whether you're artistic or sporty. I don't think it exists. I just think you kind of have to choose.
You just have to choose, because I really I really like sports. I played soccer too, and I was a goalie, believe it or not, which I can't even believe. And then one day I just was like, this is important to me. It's my moneymaker. And then I just like moved out of the goal. And I used to be a tomboy. And then I don't know when the transition was that I was like, no, I like pink and girly things, you know? But yeah, I started taking voice lessons, and then like singing is like probably my number one. Like even in stand-up, I incorporate my singing.
Yeah, which other comedians hate that because it's hard to follow. If I had to follow you and you're doing your baby back, I'm like, oh shit, and because then I'm thinking of, all right, what breadsticks? What can I reference that's gonna, blooming onion joke that I have?
Maybe you'll go like 800-588-2300 Empire today. Boom. You gotta do the button. Yeah, Barbie, and then do barbecue sauce after that.
No, I mean that's great though. I had to follow a guitar comic. I say that like it's a slur, like comedians refer, but he's super famous now, or famous now, and I bombed. I couldn't. The energy was too good. It's a great. Now, do you have to, like, do you only close on music? Because sometimes you can't even follow your own like sometimes if you do a musical bit, you can't be then be like, wow, I used to be a goalie. People are like, whoa, more Chili's.
Sing more Chili's.
Give us more
I
fast
actually
food.
do more of that. I want to start doing more singing in my stand-up because I only have little bits where it's like I incorporate like a musical theater song.
Yeah.
That is a familiar one that people know, like something from Rent or like, Cats.
Sure.
You know, so people know it.
I'm a big Les Mis fan, so maybe you can
Okay, well, thank you for saying that because I do have a joke that's a Les Mis thing.
Oh, do you really?
Something about like me being bad at my finances and that they need me running numbers, but I'm only running musical numbers. And then I'm like, well, what did you think about my performance to 24601? I did it like one time and nobody laughed. And I was like, that was only for my Les Mis lovers in the crowd.
Yeah, no, you just got the wrong audience. You got the wrong audience. You know, I mean, isn't that funny though, how sometimes we'll try a bit that we think has legs, and then one time it doesn't work, and we're like, well, I'll go fuck myself then, and then that could have been
out
the thing.
the window.
And it's that's kind of like a microcosm of, you know, now that I'm a dad, I'm always like, I have to make sure I don't bomb or be a bad audience for my kid when he's trying something new, because I could change the trajectory of his life if he's like, you know, if I'm not there to receive a bid that he has, and a bid being kind of like an affection kind of thing. And with comedy, we're kind of doing that. We're throwing jokes out at people, and if the room's not perfect for it, it might not hit. And then if you don't have that confidence to be like, no, there's something there, you just drop your Les Mis bit.
Drop my Les Mis bit. I have done it like again, got a couple laughs again because I'm like, there's only a few Les Mis people, but I'm like, you know what? Really, at the end of the day, I think that joke is just for me. Because I love Les Mis. This is my favorite musical.
You know, I've had throwaway lines turn into closers.
Really?
And you just don't. And sometimes I've also had throwaways or jokes that I'll remember from years earlier that never took off, and then they fit perfectly. I got this old joke about getting ghosted on. I haven't done this joke in years, but now it fits into this joke I have where I kind of make fun of women who contour too much. And then I make fun of how men contour. And then all of a sudden it turned into a joke about how men measure their penis size, because every man does. You know, we bend it to the side to get the long way because we're like, it's never big enough when you're hitting puberty. Like, that's why, you know, but anyway, I'm not doing bits, but like, and it turns into one, and then all of a sudden, and the reason I bring this up creatively is, sometimes you don't understand the web you're building. And then when you do finish it...
Put that on a shirt.
I will.
Wow.
I will. Let's tour. Let's tour on it. Your Les Mis tour. Les Mis, and we'll cater it. We're going to perform at every Chili's across the country.
Sometimes you don't know what web you're building.
But you don't, because you're putting a blueprint together. And in hindsight, someone might be like, dude, that 20-minute bit is great. And you're like, in your head, you're like, well, that's 17 failed bits.
Yeah.
That's a bolognese of bullshit that didn't work, but together it does.
Yeah.
So who am I as a person who's just trying to talk out loud into a microphone to decide what's worthy? Because all I really need to do is present this and then do it enough times so that it kind of crystallizes in the direction it's supposed to.
Right, yeah. And it's funny that you say that because I just did I actually just ran at my first 30 minutes about a month ago. Yeah, and it was so cool, so exhilarating, so fun.
At Third Wall, where we met.
Yes, yeah. And
I was going to try to come.
Yeah, Third Coast, yeah. So,
Third Coast, sorry.
I was like, Third Wall.
Oh my gosh, my club in California was Fourth Wall, so I said Third Wall.
Oh, yeah. Third Coast, upstairs, and it was like it was so fun.
Were you nervous? That's a lot of time.
Yeah, yes and no, because I've done like 20, 25 before. So
but in theater, you might have a 2 or 3 minute solo bit, and then the ensemble comes in. 30 minutes, half an hour, 1/48 of a day. People are there just watching you. Yeah.
So it was
That's
definitely
crazy.
it's really wild. Yeah, when you actually say it like that, and you're like, that is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but I was like pumped to do it. My boyfriend, Nick, he did it with me as well. So he did 30, then I did 30. And it was so fun. But you talking about this like web and like structure and like putting things together. Usually the bit I start with, it's like, I didn't start with it because if I did that bit, some of my other bits wouldn't land as well.
You'd give away something too early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to be like doing this with like my bits and my sets, and then throwing in these like, you know what, I haven't done that in a while, and I think that would be good here, you know?
Yeah.
And so
it changes the order of things when you can air them out.
And it was really cool to get to structure my set like that. And, you know, and doing it in a different way that I haven't done before in like a 5-minute, 7-minute, 10-minute set. So it was cool.
Yeah. Now, how serious, when did you feel like stand-up could take some roots? Was it the first time you did it? Like, what was that experience like? Because I know our audience, we always love to talk about kind of just like taking big, bold risks, because everyone's always like, how do I jump into something big? And that's a hard one. Yeah. Because like, how do you break that? How do you break into that?
Mm-hmm. So I would say that I remember the first time I ever did stand up, like the show that I had, I ended up like headlining because so many of my friends came and family, which was so fun. But that moment, it was this exhilarating feeling of just like, this feels so good. Not necessarily where it could take me, but just that I liked this feeling and I wanted to like explore feeling like this more. Yeah. And I will actually say like in 2020, which wasn't that everyone's year that were like, this is the year. I did in 2020 January say, I'm not gonna audition for musical theater anymore. I just want to do improv and stand up. I just want to see where stand up takes me, because I want to like bask in that feeling, you know? Yeah. Even if the feeling sometimes is like, I bombed, but it's still like, it's always been like learning experience. And there's something about challenging yourself and being vulnerable on a stage where like the writing is me. Like, do you write that?
You have control over the creative direction, obviously.
And I'm obsessed with that. I think, listen, I've done musical theater, improv, and like stand up, and it's like I love stand up. I think that that's why I like it so much, because I have it's my writing. And
if you want to write a musical act, I love how weird some people are getting. Like you could if you wanted to. You could stop your stand-up act halfway through and do a puppet show. Yeah, as long as you're going to get laughs or keep people's attention. Yeah, you know, you've got this reemergence of people doing ventriloquism. I mean, like crazy fun stuff. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and that's what I think is cool. And so, like, just to challenge yourself to like what gives you that exciting feeling, and then just leaning into that and being like, I'm gonna see where this could possibly, like, what is this feeling? I want to live in this. So what am I doing? Let's like push it. Let me see where it could take me. And so when I moved down here, to be honest, I've done more stand-up comedy down here than I've ever done before, and have had so many more opportunities. And
the pay's better too.
I never got paid in New York.
I just did 2 sets, like simple sets, and they each paid $150. When I went to Phoenix, I sold 130 tickets, and after all the checks were cut and 80% revenue, and after the hotel and flights, I made like $700, which is fine. But here I just made $300 staying in town with 0 expenses. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like there is something to be said about having a city that's not overrun. Like New York and LA are overrun with comedians. So you just don't get paid.
And it's also just, it was, there was this intimidation factor in New York. There was this, I'm a woman. There was a lot that checked off.
Your audience is more, you have the Chili's audience.
I have the Chili's audience. Like, bring me the Chili's audience. Yeah, I do want to start doing more musical, like, comedy in my sets. And that's something I've been exploring, because I do love musical theater. I am a musical theater nerd through and through. Always will be, never will not be. And so it's like, want to start incorporating that. Again, it goes back to the feeling. Like, I sing a musical theater song and I'm like, I feel better, Yeah. And it's the same feeling of when I get off stage during stand up, and I could bomb, but if I have like one big laugh, I'm like that laugh. What I mean?
It's meditative, right? Because when you sing, you're really just doing a chant in one way or another, which is the vibrations of kind of like the law of attractions, right? You're vibrating at a high energy. Yeah. And so any creative work is a high energy. Stand up can be tough because you do kind of get needy and rely on that audience, but a song's a song. So if you write a song in your stand-up act, you're going to perform that for the most part, regardless of the audience's input, and they know that there's an end to it, and there's probably always like an applause break when you get to it. Yeah,
and I do I'd say that I'm a jammer on guitar, aka like around a campfire.
You're one of the campfire, yeah.
I do know how to play. I should be more confident in my guitar skills, but I get nervous playing in front of people. that like, it's different to play and then you play and then you start singing. I'm like, how does Taylor Swift do it? You know, I need to call her because it seems really
get her on
hard.
The phone.
I want to get her on the phone. I mean, I could play all of her chords: A minor, E, D, G, C. Easy.
Is your dating life as complicated as hers? So tell me about Professor. Is this like serious, do you think?
Oh my gosh, yes. He's amazing. He's great. I wouldn't be dating him if I didn't see like the future.
Are you in a date with intention phase?
I've only had 2 serious boyfriends my whole life, and guess what? Before my boyfriend now, I was single for 9 years.
There you go.
I'm acting like I planned that, but I didn't. In New York,
when you say single for 9 years, you mean like I'm going on dates? Like were there rules? Like did you set up rules? Like I'm not gonna go hook up with this guy till the 3rd date because was there a strategy to it, or just you're just kicking rocks and seeing?
It's just kicking rocks. Like you know what? Sometimes I was like, I'm gonna wait till date 3, and then I was like, you know what? This first date was fun, you know, and like you know, and just I started throwing out those are like you have to wait like. I'm also very close with my parents, which this seems weird to a lot of people, but my parents know like everything about what my dating like sex life. They want to know. My mom's like, tell me more, and then my dad literally would be like, literally that's my mom. She's a pink lady, and my dad would flat out say, how about you don't sleep with them on the first date this time? I'm like, okay, relax.
Good dad advice. Hey,
Dad.
don't give them the milk if the cow's not, whatever the hell.
Well, you know what my dad always say? He'd always be like, gee, you don't want to be another notch on a guy's belt. And I remember turning to him being like, I don't know if you know this, but women wear belts now too.
You know what? I mean, my wife and I were like a quick thing, but we already like were friends. And then I've been with other situations, you know, like there's situations are never as simple as like do this or do that. You know, it really comes down to, you know, I feel like the older you get, the more mature people are with sex, and you're like, look, you can do that. And then sometimes you can be like, I don't want to ruin this or make it weird. Like, let's see if this guy's serious. And then maybe he sticks around. No, maybe the guy sticks around with or without the sex. Like, you know, it's you never know.
You never know.
There's no real, by the way, how's this pizza?
It's so good. Wait, it's from New York, Brooklyn.
Really?
I swear you gotta get a slice.
I'm gonna get it on the way home.
Very good.
I'm gonna get it on the way home then. Because I was looking at it and you got pizza near you?
Yeah, pizza, and then there's also they have this like little shop that they own here. You can get. I actually got cavatelli that they make.
I'm going to be hanging out. You're going to see me at the pool with your neighbor.
Come on by. Come on by.
Invite us to your pool.
Come on by. Come on hang at the pool.
We're in that stage where my wife, and you know, rightfully is just like nervous of the baby catching any colds whatsoever because we haven't done any vaccines yet. I think our first one's this week. So
you have to connect with my sister who's having a baby.
I know. Well, that's why I'm talking to you today. I'm trying to recruit friends. So your sister lives near me.
She lives. I was actually there yesterday. She lives 3 minutes away from you.
Really?
You have to exit that out. Don't so cross out.
Now I got to delete it. Dang it. 34 minutes in. I'll try to remember.
Let's do it again. 34 minutes is good.
Your sister lives near me in that town.
Your sister, my sister lives near you.
I had a stranger text me my address. They were like, "Yeah, you were in a database," and it was nice of them to tell me because I have a stalker. I think I do. Oh, wow. You know, humble brag.
Humble brag.
Not to bring it full circle here, but you know, I also like my business is registered at my house, so like they just get your address.
They just get
and I'm
your
like,
address.
Why can't we not? Can we not do this? You know?
Can you not? At least like didn't Taylor Swift had a stalker that literally laid in her bed.
Yeah. That guy
done that yet, right?
And he kept on. Her most recent stalker got arraigned in court, and then they found him in front of her place like an hour after. He's like,
help.
You need help in that case.
You need help in that case.
So you're dating the professor.
And he is great. Yeah.
You're reinventing yourself here. What's next for you? What's on the vision board of Teresa Morrison?
So it's so funny that you ask that because I've really been thinking about this lately because I have a 9-to-5 job right now. I'm in sales.
What are you selling?
What was that?
What are you selling?
A platform, like
tech sales.
Yeah, I work in the mental health
like
space.
a doc, like a real.
No, like a platform for like therapists to use.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and I get to talk to therapists all day, which is very nice. And then sometimes you get a couple where you're like, this therapist needs a therapist. You know what I mean? So
you get into therapists are notorious for being kind of zany.
man. Who'd have thunk?
People who have their shit together aren't like, let me help others. No, people that need help others.
It's wild.
Don't get mad at me, therapists. I don't need it.
Like, are you sassing me right now?
Don't get triggered. Work through the steps or whatever you do.
Like, take some breaths, count to 4.
Use your big feelings. All right, so you're selling stuff, but I mean, hey, I mean, when you're I hate to say the word pursuing because it's like a limitation, but when you're working on building your equity with your art, which is really what it is, because I'm sure you wouldn't be selling platforms if you could sell theater. If I could, I wouldn't be doing. We wouldn't be here in the car right now.
Yeah.
If I was could sell out any theater I wanted, I would just do that, mail it in, and do that. I'd be lazy, but that's just not the way it works until it does.
Until it does, yeah.
Until it does. So
right now I'm with an agency here. That's another thing. I moved down here, met a lady at a coffee shop who was like a scout for an agency and was like, send me your stuff. And now I have an agent, and it's like, it's been great. I mean, I've gotten a couple of gigs from her.
What's your character? What do they get?
Oh my gosh.
Is it insulting what they're putting you on? Because it's always like nerdy librarian, and you're like, gee, thanks. I thought I was going up for the lead.
Yesterday's was a commercial audition, and in the description, also my favorite, the description, it literally says, looking for average woman 35 to 40, can't be too fit.
And your agent's like, I got one for you.
I got a girl. And I was like,
mine's always like, worst ex-boyfriend. Everyone hates this guy. And I'm like, oh, good. All right. I would say I looked like Bradley Cooper on Limitless before he takes the pill.
Oh no! You
gotta be specific. Before he takes Adderall, he's just like, well, good for you. Yeah. You're out here, you're doing the dang thing.
Doing the dang thing.
You got to get your sister to come over and do s'mores. How old's their kid?
So she is just turned 1 in April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring them over. We got the sticks and the fire pit. And
she's a hoot. Actually, well, you live over there, but she's dropping her off here tomorrow.
Did you tell them that I live here? Did you say I have a friend?
I keep forgetting to give her your Instagram.
If they already live here, they don't need new friends. That's the problem.
No,
when you have friends, you're like, okay, I don't care about your friend who just moved here.
My sister can use them.
She can use friends?
She can use friends. Because they moved to where you live now, and all their friends are in West Nashville.
There you go.
And pregnant, baby, they don't do a lot of driving.
And my wife, I'm like, come on, if I can get her a friend, it takes a little pressure off me. Right. There's nothing better in a man's life when he's like, honey, what are you up to? And she's like, I'm going to hang out with Susan. Cool.
I love it.
All right.
Woo, Susan.
I got the shift off. Go get them, Susan. Get those extra appetizers. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me. And where can people find and support you? Teresa Hysteria? Do I have that right?
Yes, you do.
With no H.
The only H is in hysteria.
There it is. Teresa. No H in Teresa, H in hysteria
Teresa
at Instagram.
At Teresa Hysteria.
Anything else going on?
No, that is it.
Besides the 35 to 40-year-old
average woman, not too fit.
Not in my book. All right. Well, thanks again for doing the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.